We're joined by our friend Ned Ryan, founder and CEO of American Majority. Ned has a new documentary out this week, American Leviathan, The Birth of the Administrative State and Progressive Authoritarianism. Documentary is out on X. It's also posted for you to watch and enjoy at clayandbuck.com. Mr. Ned, great to have you, sir. All right, dive into this documentary. It's certainly timely given the work of Trump and Doge, Elon, and the whole
Yep.
team.
Well, but I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to do it, Buck, was it's a companion to the book, but to really show people and give them real clarity on the fact that rule of the bureaucrat, as Elon mentioned a few weeks ago, that's not a bug, that's a feature. That was always intended by progressives for the last 100 years, and has nothing to do with representative government, has nothing to do with our constitutional republic. And what I wanted to do is cover some of the same themes in the book, but also have conversations with senators and with congressmen and with other people that have been in DC inside the belly of Leviathan to really discuss how DC works. And I think when people watch the documentary, they're going to understand with real clarity from the mouths of elected officials, yeah, we don't really actually do the governing in this town. We don't do the real legislating. We pass these 4,000 and 5,000 page bills. We send them over to the unelected bureaucrats in the Article 2 branch. We, of our own volition, subdelegate legislative authority to them to let them, with their statutes and regulations, do the real governing of this country. And then to make matters worse, Buck, they're blindly funding these unelected, out of control bureaucrats blindly, and then not demanding any oversight, not demanding accountability or transparency at all. And it's become one of those things that I think is pretty hard to miss these days, watching what's going on in DC. But I hope that the American people get real clarity, because it's because of the American people awakening that they will inspire Congress to actually do what they're supposed to do, to actually legislate, and inspire the president, who has unbelievable amounts of moral and political courage to keep going on the path that he's going on, and then to brace the judges, which is, of course, a huge issue in the present moment, to maybe just do their Article 3 constitutional duty. Because the American people, I think, are going to understand that administrative power is a revival of absolute power and is a tremendous threat to their civil liberties, tremendous threat to our future freedom and prosperity. So once the American people wake up and understand what's going on, and then demand these things of their elected officials, I think it's the beginning of the end of administrative power.
How do we deal with the threshold that seems to have been, well, it has been artificially created by the Congress itself, that we have to get to 60 in the Senate to get any real legislation through because of the filibuster? Because, Ned, I just,
Right?
it feels like the Democrats are the party of the administrative state. They
They
have
are.
seeded the administrative state with their ideologues, and we haven't even talked about the judges yet, but the administrative state with all
Right.
these ideologues. And so the Democrat Party is just not going to, no matter how outrageous the spending is at these places, no matter how useless they are, they're not going to come along with us, right? So what do we do about
Well,
that?
well, I would say I'd probably come from a little bit different angle, Buck, because we already know Democrats are a lost cause. The problem being, and the problem that has been for decades in DC, is that too many Republicans have gone along with it. They've accepted the premise that somehow this administrative state is a legitimate form of government, and that they should continue to fund it and cede their control to these unelected bureaucrats. So while I understand that the problem is Democrats in many ways, I would argue that in many ways it's been the Republicans in Congress who have been. I don't want to say that Congress has been the villain of the 20th century, but in many ways we have an administrative state and the unelected bureaucrats and out of control spending, and I would argue again abuse of our civil liberties and authoritarianism, because Congress has of its own volition ceded its control, and that's not just Democrats, it's Republicans. And so I would say the first step in getting us to the right place is for Republicans across the board to go, yeah, administrative state is deeply unconstitutional. It's deeply un-American. We are going to demand that we get back our subdelegated legislative authority and actually do the governing, actually do the legislating, instead of really passing the buck to these unelected bureaucrats to avoid making hard decisions. So let's get Republicans on the same page, and then we can discuss how we're going to dismantle the Democratic Party moving forward.
We're with Ned Ryan, founder and CEO of American Majority. He's got a new documentary out, American Leviathan, which you can watch on X. It is posted on X, also at clayandbuck.com. The judiciary as the protector
Yeah.
of the administrative state. This is one of the biggest, and I know you were ready for this. All the veterans of Trump's first term, everybody who was in that fight remembers the
Yep.
hashtag resistance judges. And unfortunately, they're successful even when they lose, right, Ned? Because if they drag it out and they burn time off the clock,
Yep.
they're getting some of what they want, even if the Supreme Court takes it up and strikes them down, as has happened many times in the past. So, what's the best
Yep.
strategy for this? What can be done so that they aren't able to run out the clock on the efforts to rein in the administrative state?
So you're absolutely correct. I mean, this is a continuance of lawfare, sadly, by the Article 3 judicial branch, the lower level judges, to prevent Trump from actually implementing his agenda. And they are acting as a protector of the administrative state. So, a couple of things. I hope that Donald Trump, and you can see this coming out of his DOJ, that he is going to obviously fight back as quickly as possible. I kind of like him to basically channel Andrew Jackson. Obviously, that apocryphal story, but it's kind of the feeling, the spirit that I want Trump to have. You've made your decisions. Now try enforcing them, because the Article 3, what's happening right now, Buck, is these lower level judges are overstepping their constitutional bounds and trying to dictate to the head of the Article 2 branch what is his constitutional right and authority, whether it's on foreign policy or domestic policy, or who he can hire, what he can do with the various departments and agencies that are under him inside the Article 2 branch. And so he's got to he essentially has to tell them, that's great, I'm going to continue down this path. It would be nice if Congress actually stepped up to the plate. I think impeaching judges would be a little too far for most of those people in Congress, because they're not exactly profiles in courage. But I would argue, if they could find some small sliver of political courage, why don't we think about defunding the lower courts? Because that's Congress's constitutional right to do that. But I think ultimately, in the short term, John Roberts is actually going to have to find it within himself to go, hey, for the sake of the legitimacy of the Article 3 judicial branch, the Supreme Court is going to have to step in and put in some pretty strong guardrails and say, you can't do this. You're overstepping your constitutional bounds. And to be honest, Buck, I think John Roberts doing that is probably 50-50. So I think we're in for a couple interesting weeks and months ahead. But I think Donald Trump is making it very clear in the last couple of days, he's not going to let them prevent him implementing the will of the American people. I mean, he was elected to enact a very specific agenda that was painted out in bold, bright colors last fall. And these judges are attempting to defy the will of the people as being implemented through Donald Trump's agenda. So I think Trump's going to be pretty aggressive on this, but it would be nice if John Roberts stepped up to the plate, but I have my doubts.
Where do you think the state of progressive authoritarianism is right now? Because it certainly is the case that the Democrat Party is in a rough spot, which is great,
Yep,
very exciting. Probably the
lovely.
roughest spot it's been in a long time, which is a lovely thing. But the ideology that they have and the machinery that they have to push it, I mean, obviously the administrative state is a huge part of it. Do
Yep.
you feel like this is the first opening we have to do real damage to them? Do you worry that
Yep.
if we don't get it done, they'll just come right back and do the same stuff? I mean, how do you view it from the side of the opposition here? I mean, are where do you think they fall in this whole situation?
Well, I think you can see from their behavior, they realize this is an existential threat. I mean, politics is their religion, Buck. I mean, the administrative state is their holy of holies, their vehicle for salvation. Politics is their religion. And when they look at Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they see them as existential threats to those things that they hold so valuable, and that really is the undergirding for their entire movement. So I know that they view this as an existential threat to the continuance of their movement, to the continuance of the progressive administrative state. And so I don't think, just to be clear, I don't think you're going to see any dialing back of the violence or the rhetoric, because we know that Trump derangement syndrome is an incurable disease. And I think Elon Musk derangement syndrome is an incurable disease. And the only way I think you see it stop is for there to be serious legal consequences, which you can start to see rumblings of that coming out of the Trump administration. But they are in disarray. And the thing that I am trying to figure out, Buck, are there any rational Democrats left inside the party? Because the progressive movement has eaten it from within. They are the Democratic Party. The progressive movement is. Is there any ability for a rational Democrat to be able to stand up and go, hey, we are going in the absolute wrong path. We need to pivot out of this? I suspect they won't be able to, not in the near term. I think this is something where the black hole of progressive ideology is completely sucking in whatever vestiges of rational thought might be left inside the Democratic Party. And moving towards kind of an annihilation. But that to me is a very good thing, Buck, because I think the only way you get back to a sense and a real sense of normalcy in this country is for the left to be beaten into unconditional surrender and never be allowed near political power again as you start to destroy these various institutions like the indoctrination centers, like the administrative state, going after the corporate propagandists. Because for the sake of the future of our country and prosperity and freedom and happiness, the progressive movement writ large has to be either shoved so far into the corner that it's a minimal voice in our society or it ceases to exist.
I always make the case, Ned, that the good news about this is nobody should feel like if we were to crush the administrative state, if Trump, Elon, Doge, maybe even the
Yep.
Republican Party writ large were to mobilize and really make major progress on this mission and for this initiative, the people that are crying and all the gnashing of teeth and all the, oh, we're so upset, it actually will be better for them too. This is what this is.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah,
wins.
it
They
will
may
be.
not realize it, but America will be a more prosperous, freer, and better place if we don't have this nonsensical Leviathan, as your documentary is
Yep.
titled, American Leviathan, trampling on our rights and just our day to day all the time.
It is something. So you bring up something I think's pretty interesting, Buck. I mean, I'm just thinking. I've been thinking about it and I've said some things public already. I'll say it again here. Elon and Doge started as we're going to go after waste, fraud, and abuse, and then he realizes in this journey of his, you can kind of see this epiphany of Elon along the way. Wait, we have the rule of bureaucrats. Well, yeah, that was always the point of progressives, and now we've gotten to the point of it really feels like the administrative state and the government writ large has become a leftist money laundering slash slush fund in which they're trying to advance their ideology and really truly undermine this country. I mean, a lot of the stuff that they're funding, I believe, to be truly anti-American and very aggressively going after not only this country and our foundational principles, but the American people's way of life. And it will be for the best if we end the administrative state. But I think we got to be realistic about it, Buck. I mean, this took 100 years to get to this point. When you think about the founding of the administrative state, really in the first term of Woodrow Wilson, we're over 100 years into this disastrous experiment. We're not going to get out of it overnight, but it is going to require tremendous political courage. And Donald Trump and Elon Musk have it in spades. We've got to figure out how Congress somehow gets injected with that courage as well to be able to do the right things and actually say, we're not going to allow this anymore. And for the will of the American people, right? We're not going to allow this unconstitutional, unrepresentative form of government to continue on in this country because, again, it has nothing to do with our constitutional tradition.
Ned Ryun, founder and CEO of American Majority, American Leviathan, The Birth of the Administrative State and Progressive Authoritarianism is his new documentary. It's on X. You can also watch. We have it posted at clayandbuck.com. Ned, great work as always, my friend. Good to talk to you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Buck.
We will close out here in a couple secs with a couple minutes with the latest talkbacks and calls from you. But in the meantime, you can't defend the words of our Constitution if you don't know them. Hillsdale College can help you with that, and you don't even have to be a student. Hillsdale has created dozens of courses, including one on our Constitution, all available online in video format. It's all free, too. Millions of Americans have already taken one or more of these courses. They've got nearly 40 of them, each series with multiple episodes that unpack topics like the history of world wars, the enduring values of a free market economy, or how great civilizations like Rome came to be and what led to their demise. That's all in addition to the Constitution 101 course. Go online to clayandbuck4hillsdale.com. That's clayandbuck4hillsdale.com. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. clayandbuck4hillsdale.com to register. Go check it out today.